ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Sober Grind podcast. This podcast is dedicated to bringing you the most intriguing guests and polarizing discussions about addiction recovery and the sober grind. My name is Austin, and I am joined by my awesome co-host, Pej. Pej, say hello and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, everybody. How's everyone doing today? My name is Pej. Tell you a little bit about myself. Well, let's see here. I'm about 10 and a half years sober from all mind-altering substances. That would be everything under the sun. I was kind of like a human trash can. Meth was my final demise, but I was experimenting with everything from alcohol to heroin to marijuana to ecstasy to everything. So it was just a long laundry list of things that I was putting into my body because I was never comfortable in my own skin. I have been working in and out of treatment for many, many years. I've held a lot of positions. I've worn a lot of hats. I've been a case manager. I've been a program director, program manager, and I have worked on the front lines for a long time. Lately, I'm doing business development at Beginnings Treatment Center in Santa Ana and Costa Mesa and Huntington Beach. And I also work alongside Earl Hightower at Hightower Associates. I do some marketing for him and his recovery companion service, as well as interventions. I do interventions. Earl does interventions. Earl is my mentor. And also life coaching. I've done some life coaching, and I still am doing some life coaching currently, mostly with sober people, people that have been sober for a little while. Some of them are new to sobriety. Some of them have no life skills. So I'm everything from a life coach to a sober coach, just trying to help people find their way, guys that are usually in their early 20s. So that is what I do.
That's awesome. You've seen it all.
Not yet.
Well, I'm so happy you're doing this with me. This is going to be a huge benefit for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah, so we're just going to jump right in.
Okay.
Today we're talking about staying sober over the holiday seasons. The holiday seasons are supposed to be a joyous occasion, bringing together family and friends, but it can often lead to a lot of stress. In your opinion, why do you think the holidays can lead to so much stress, and how does that correlate with relapsing and substance abuse?
Well, holiday stressors are definitely, they're evident. It happens with a lot of different family members. That obviously, a lot of people that are in recovery, one of their biggest triggers are family and family members and history with family, things that it may have happened, problems and problematic occurrences that have consumed the addict alcoholic, and now they're trying to get sober and they find themselves back around the family member all over again, or family members. And so the holiday stressors arise, and that could happen in many different ways. They may go back home to for the holidays and see their family members and be right back in the lion's den, basically right back around everything. All the reminders are there. All the places in the house perhaps are there where they used to get high. The certain particular family members that they never really cared for, or that were, that they had really detrimental experiences with, sometimes traumatic, sometimes annoyances. Sometimes they're just people that they just don't like, or their upbringing was a certain way, and those people were definitely a factor for them in their lives and how they tried to live their lives. They were judged, or they felt like they were never enough, or they always had to live up to people's expectations. So being back around them, all of that stuff resurfaces, and they have to feel it all over again. Mm-hmm. So during the holidays, it's really hard for people to want to stay sober because they remember what they used to numb out with, and it usually is standing right there in their face in the form of another human being.
Mm. Yeah. Especially friends too. What's your opinion on going back home, traveling for the holidays, and then reconnecting with friends that you used to use with and party with?
That's a really good question. I personally, here's from my own personal experience, what ended up happening was that early on in recovery, it didn't happen right away. Rome wasn't built in a day. It needed to. There was certain barriers that I had to work through that were preventing me from really embracing my sobriety. So when I really, really started to love being sober, and it was to the point where I knew this was the only way that I wanted to live. When I would go back around people that were old friends, some of them using buddies or just people that I may have interacted with in the past, and we may have used casually, or we may have actually like done some hard partying with. I made it very clear to them that when I saw them, like, I'm sober now, and a lot of them can't comprehend that. A lot of people don't understand what complete abstinence is. They don't get what being 100% sober is. You can tell somebody like an old friend, yeah, I'm sober. They'll think, oh, well, he doesn't smoke weed or doesn't do hard drugs anymore, but why don't you drink? They don't understand like alcohol is a substance too. So they might be insistent in continually offering you the drink. And you just have to like make it loud and clear. No, thank you. With all due respect, you can go ahead and you can drink, but I just don't do that anymore. So I made it very clear to my friends that if I'm going to be around you, I just want you to know that I'm a sober human being now. Like, I'm not who I used to be. No judgment. You can do whatever you want, but this is who I am now. And usually people are pretty respectful of that. They're not going to keep trying to push it on you. And if they are, don't go around them. If you see old people are always going to want to see their old friends, no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people are not so rigid in their sobriety in the beginning to where they just cut out everybody. Some people are instructed to do so. Some people are told to erase and delete all phone numbers. I didn't do that. Personally, I was just more happy about me being sober, so going around old friends wasn't that difficult. And to this day, all of my old school friends are kind of surprised that the guy that was partying the hardest is now the soberest out of all of them.
I'm sure it takes so much willpower to get to that point too, especially in the beginning. How do you switch your mindset to be able to just tell those friends like, hey, I'm sober, and just disregard everything that they're saying?
Well, it's a good question. See, when we talk about willpower, the way that I was raised in recovery, we were taught that willpower was actually a mind state. And if it was really left up to me and my willpower, I told myself 1,000 times, I'm never going to use again, I'm never going to drink again, and I'd be loaded in a couple of days or a couple of hours shortly after. So when it came to willpower, that wasn't really working for me. When you get plugged into recovery, into the community, into the fellowship, into the support groups, into the mentors, when you are completely plugged into them and have that communication where you bounce things off of them and you ask them, like, what do you think about this idea? And they give you clear-cut directions on the do's and the don'ts, then like, I've been taking direction and instruction from this person for a while now. Mm-hmm. And when he says go right, I go right. And when he says go left, I go left. And if he says jump, I say how high. So no matter what situation because obviously, like, we're going to go places where there's going to be stuff. Alcohol obviously is legal. Marijuana is now legal too. So it's going to be there. I smell it often, in the air. And so it's not really a matter of I don't think of my own will to where I'm saying, like, I'm above it all. No, I'm not above it all, because truly, like, I have the disease of addiction, and I can smell weed, and it'll set off that the disease. Like, basically the beast will get unleashed in my head to the point where I will start thinking. And I've actually I've gone to the gym and smelled someone smoking weed in the parking lot, and went inside the gym, and I was like reminiscing, and I thought, oh my God, I remember that. Oh my. I can practically taste it right now. Oh my God. You know
Wow.
what? Maybe being a counselor in rehab isn't all that. Maybe I shouldn't keep going to these 12-step meetings. Maybe
powerful, huh?
That's where my brain
Wow.
will start to go. And then I think, wait, hold it right there. That's basically that 800-pound gorilla that's doing push-ups in your head, and he wants to get you. He wants to get you in a position where he wants to convince you that you're not so bad. So what do? I pick up the phone and I call I'm just going to say it straight up, my sponsor, right? Who's my mentor in recovery, the person who's got a few extra years than me in recovery, and I tell him, hey, this is the thought I had. What do you think? And he's like, not a good thought. Throw it out the window. You don't want that thought. Your disease is trying to convince you that you're not so bad. And I realized right then, like, wow, that's how powerful it can be. So I think just surrounding yourself with people, or even if you're far away from them, they're at a phone distance away from just calling them and seeing where they're at and letting them know. I'm in a squirrely situation right now. What shall I do? And they'll, ask 3 people that are sober, that have been sober for a while, and base your, whatever your decision on their answers.
Yeah, that takes an incredible amount of self-awareness. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, continuing on the aspect of traveling, if you're regularly going to meetings and you're in another location or another state, do you think it's good to seek out other meetings wherever you are, or
Absolutely.
how would you go about that?
Absolutely. So 12-step meetings you can find them anywhere in America, right? Like you can find them anywhere in the world. You can find them on a yacht, on a ship, right? If you really, really, really do your research, it's not hard to find. There's apps, Meeting Finder. I've gone to places like Arizona. I've gone to Vegas. I've gone to
Meeting Finder.
Meeting Finder, yeah.
Oh, cool.
I've gone to Bethesda, Maryland, and I'm the type of guy that wherever I go, there I am. So like if I go to a different town, it's not like my disease has stayed home. It's definitely with me always. It never goes away. And the best thing for me to do is to get plugged in with whatever local resources, whatever meetings are to be found. And sometimes, of course, like there's nothing like Southern California meetings. So if I go to like another state, I get to experience how they do meetings. The message is always there. People are always welcoming. They're always loving. It's funny. I went to this one out in Bethesda, Maryland, and I remember it was really cool. This is fun little memory that I have. About 4 or 5 years ago, I went to go speak at some conference on addiction in Washington, D.C. My aunt had set it up because she had this thing called the Arise and Flourish Foundation, and one night I was like, I want to go to a meeting, and she lived right on the outskirts of D.C. and Bethesda, Maryland, and I looked up on my Meeting Finder thing a place to go, and I remember it was this church, and I walked up this turnpike to get to this church, and like I realized like later, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like walking on the side of a highway, like just to get to this thing. I walked in, I met this guy, and he was really cool, and he was welcoming, and that guy he befriended me, and then he took me to another meeting the next day in another place, and it was really cool. And I remember when I was in this meeting, there was a lot of people there. It was really cool. They looked different, but they were all talking about the same stuff that we talk about back home. And I was living in LA at the time, and they asked me, so does the guy from LA want to say anything? And I said, yeah, I want to say something. I'm really tripping out on you guys. Like, you guys don't clap out here like we do in California. I'm used to people clapping for every little thing, including the coffee maker. And all of a sudden, everybody started clapping. It was so cool. It was like the fellowship was amongst me, and it doesn't matter where I went. There are other sober people in other towns that I can, find if I really seek them out. So it is quite possible, yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love the app too. That's amazing.
There's actually a few of them.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So we were talking about this a little bit off recording too, a little earlier. But how would you approach accidentally consuming alcohol or drugs? I mean, especially here in California, with marijuana being recreationally legalized now or coming soon. How would you approach if you're at a party and you pick up a brownie and take a bite and, oh my goodness, there was marijuana in there, or someone gives you an eggnog that you don't know has a little alcohol in it?
It's spiked. Okay, so I like that question a lot. Personally, I think recovery per each individual who's in recovery, it's up to them to know how serious they are about their recovery. Because there's some people that are pussyfooting with their recovery. So let's say, for example, they're not really seriously in recovery. They may have gone to some meetings. They may have gone to a treatment center. They may be calling themselves sober. They may have been abstinent from using and drinking for a while. So, but they aren't really like engulfed in recovery. They're not really like doing the things that are required to stay sober. So they get into that type of a situation. They put a little something in their mouth, and the next thing you know, they're like, oh no, I've done it. Like, I've actually drank. I screwed up. Might as well just keep going. That's on them.
Yeah.
To each their own. Me personally, my personal experience is that I was at a party and I was drinking just water, and somebody else was drinking vodka next to me, and for some reason our glasses got switched up because they looked the same. It was a clear content, and I remember I put it in my mouth and I downed it. Oh no, I took a sip and it got to my tongue, and some of it got down my throat, and I thought, that is not water.
I can only imagine.
Clear as day, that was vodka. And I remember it like it was yesterday. And I told her, I thought you said this is my water. And I spit it out really quick. And I thought, oh my God, is that a relapse? And I called my mentor, my sponsor, and I asked him, like, did I just relapse? And he's like, did you keep drinking? And I said, no. And he goes, then it's not a relapse. It's a free lapse. And basically, you just don't keep drinking. Don't let the beast get unleashed. Contain it. Make sure that you don't keep going. As far as edibles, apparently these days, I mean, back in the day we used to do a little bit of baking with pot brownies, but these days people are baking everything and anything they possibly can.
What if you have like a casserole or something?
A casserole. You want to probably know who made your food.
Yeah.
Like if you're hanging out with a bunch of hippie buddies like that used to follow the dead around, get candy, suckers, anything like that, like obviously people that you probably shouldn't be hanging out with, you never know. But like if you want to know like where you're getting your food from, your baked goods, things like that, have they been doused? Have they been has somebody baked THC into them? You want to know, right? So again, if you take a bite into something and somebody lets you know along the way that, hey, by the way, did you know that those are pot brownies or that's pot cake or whatever, marijuana cake, you actually feel the effects by it. If you didn't intend on actually getting loaded or getting high off of that, I don't think that that's a relapse. That's just what I believe. You know, I don't think if you ate it and you're like, oh my God, I love that so much, I miss it, I'm going to keep going. That's on you, man. That's your recovery, and or for lack thereof, right? So, but it happens. It's besides me, I've heard of other friends that have accidentally taken a drink accidentally. There's a big difference in intentionally and accidentally. When you do it accidentally and you stop doing it and you feel remorse and you don't want to keep going forward and doing it, then you know better. You know when to just put it aside. So yeah.
Gotcha. Well, Pej, thank you so much for answering all my questions. I know that was helpful for me. I hope that was helpful for all of our listeners as well. Is there anything else that you'd like to close on?
No, I'm just really excited about the Sober Grind podcast. I hope that we get a lot of viewers, a lot of listeners. I definitely want to get the word out. I want to try to help anybody in any way that I possibly can alongside with you. We're partners in crime in the recovery world. And I'm excited for what lies ahead into the new year. This is our first show.
First of many.
First of many. And I'm excited to have a lot of the guests that we've been talking about having come on, and also just some surprise guests and things like that. So definitely I hope that, I hope we are doing good, effective work, and people will respond to it well.
I hope so. And just to segue off of that, we would love your feedback on all of this. Write us a review, leave a comment on what you like, what you would like us to cover, and we'll be sure to cover those in future episodes. We also have an online Facebook community called Ask an Addiction Specialist. You can just search for Ask an Addiction Specialist and join there, or go to the URL facebook.com/groups/Ask an Addiction Specialist. We have a big network of addiction treatment psychologists and clinical professionals there to answer all of the questions that you have. So go there. We do weekly live streams. It is all for your benefit. This podcast is sponsored by Beginnings Treatment Centers. They are incredible. If you have any questions at all, give them a call. Their number is 800-387-6907, and you can find them online at beginningstreatment.com. Pej, thank you so much again, my friend.
Thank you so much. Over and out.